Hi, welcome to the show. This is Minneapolitan TV. My name is Brandon Fertig. Welcome. Today my guest is Kris Broberg. Kris is running for City Council up in Ward 13. Welcome, Kris.
Thanks, Brandon. And I'm Kris Broberg, and like Brandon said, I'm running for City Council in Ward 13, and I'm running to stop these year-after-year increases in property taxes.
Awesome. I think most people would be happy about that. Most people understand that we need taxes for the services in the community. So when you're lowering taxes, aren't we going to sacrifice some of the services that we get?
Well, I think you should feel really good about the taxes you pay, but I think, at some point we had the government, or, it's the people that form the government. We have to look at, are we doing damage to the people paying these taxes? If you raise them year after year after year, that compounding of those rates eventually is going to start to force people out of their homes because they're not going to be able to afford to pay those property taxes.
The cities have to, raise their taxes, sometimes unexpectedly, sometimes planned, but finances aren't always the easiest thing to maintain in a city. I mean, is Minneapolis doing something really wrong, or are they just falling on bad times? Is this part of are a lot of cities going through this kind of thing, or are property tax increases something that is really preventable?
Well, I'm not going to tell you that Minneapolis is doing something really bad, but and if I'm not even going to tell you if 1 year Minneapolis had to raise its property taxes 10%, that I would be complaining if it was a real need and because of tough times or whatever for the city. But they've made a policy for the last 7 years of 8% per year property tax increases, which means that in the last 7 years our property taxes have almost doubled at the city level. I know for a lot of people they've over doubled because of property values and such, and they've kept that policy through 2018, which means in the next 9 years our property taxes will double again, and they're already surpassing those 8% increases. This year it's going to be 11.9%, and next year the mayor said you're going to feel a property tax increase that's going to impact you somewhere between 15.3 and 22.2%. So we're looking at more like a tripling of our property taxes in the next 9 years, and that's going to crush the city. It's going to force people out of their homes.
Let's be fair. What's their side of this? Why are property taxes going up like they are?
Well, I did have a chance to speak to the mayor about this, and I asked him. I said, could you have kept property taxes flat this year? And he answered that he could have, but the mayor has other priorities. To be fair to him, he thought that if he did what he thought would have been the right things to cut, he would have cut the police a lot, but he was worried that people would be dying in the streets. I don't think it has to be that drastic, and I think there are other areas like the campaign for drinking tap water that costs $200,000. I know that's almost $182,000. I know that's small peanuts, but there's more things like that. You add up, eventually it's talking about real money, or $500,000 for 10 water fountains.
Now, I know the reason for property tax increases lately have been local government aid, which is money coming back from the state, being cut back. Does that explain the property tax increases, throughout the last several years?
Well, if you listen to them at City Hall, they're going to tell you that it's local government aid, it's the governor, he's causing our property taxes to have to go up. But they know that local government aid can vary with the economy and that it's varied over time. And I've heard this from Lisa McDonald. She said, they know that these things can vary. And what they're doing, she's a former city council person, ran for mayor a few years back. But what they're doing, and this is what I see, is that Mayor Ryback is running for governor, and he's playing politics. They aren't making any changes. They know that the government aid is going to get cut, but they didn't make any changes in their spending. They just complain. And they're playing politics with this, and I don't think they should play politics with the people in Minneapolis's tax dollars. We should spend them responsibly and spend within our means and anticipate cuts in local government aid, or at least not depend on it.
Have property taxes always just been on the rise? I mean, as long as I've lived here, they kind of have been, and I don't know if they have before.
I think, it's probably the nature of government to grow, just like a corporation would grow. Certainly they're going to keep taking more and more and more, and property taxes do tend to rise. We have a little bit of inflation built into our economy, and we have to take that into account. But I wouldn't want to see property taxes rise at any more than the rate of inflation in any given year. I think if you start getting into that, eventually you're going to end up. Minneapolis started off, I moved here 12 years ago, and I moved here knowing it was a high tax place to live. but in that time, my property taxes have tripled in 12 years. And, you know, at some point, we're talking real money. I'd like to see our property taxes flat for the next 4 years, just as like a good gesture to the citizens of Minneapolis to say thank you for putting up with this past 7 years of 8% per year increases.
Well, you know, it took me a while to really buy into the fact that property taxes had gone so far up, because I don't own a home, I rent. And I've moved around I moved from Roseville to Minneapolis, so, you know, it's hard to know what property taxes are when you rent. You know, I mean, when you do notice it is when you live in the same apartment for 3 years like I have, and rent goes up 10% in 2 years. It went up like 10% last year, and it goes up again like, you know, like 5% this year or something like that. So there I start to notice it. So I've come to really realize that, and from people's testimony like yours, that property taxes in people's homes have gone from, and business taxes, you know, from like, you know, $4,000 a year to like $20,000 a year, or something just incredible. You know, taxes have just shot through the roof. What has that money been used for?
It's a good question. I mean, it's been used for, you know, the services the city's supposed to provide. It's been used for police, paying for fire and water, and I think there's been a lot of things that's been wasted on. I think the couple I mentioned before, I think, you know, when the city's making decisions, and, you know, I'm all for, you know, green initiatives and people being green and individually in their homes, but, you know, when you're having to raise property taxes like this, do we really need to put a green roof on the city buildings or on the Target Center when the cost is 5 to 8 times as much as a regular roof? I mean,
is this just overall? I don't want to sound like, you know, a pointed questioner here, but does this just sound like clear mismanagement at the city level? You know, what other explanation is? I mean, there's the economy, I suppose.
No, I don't think it's mismanagement. I think it's a difference in philosophy. And the people on the city council elected by you, you know, have a philosophy that, you know, that they can do better with your money than you can. It's the philosophy of, you know, government knows best. You know, that we were going to fix everything. We can handle everything. It's taking everything onto them. And this goes beyond just property tax issues. This current city council, and you probably heard about the park board and the, you know, the Board of Estimate and Taxation. They're trying to consolidate power to the city council. You know, this year they have on the ballot to eliminate the Board of Estimate and Taxation. Mm-hmm. I think you should vote no on that, because the Board of Estimate and Taxation provides a check and balance in the city government. The city council also wanted to eliminate the independently elected park board. You know, I think the status quo in this regard is good. Pick better park board members, yes, but the status quo is good because there's a check. There's a Board of Estimate that checks the park board and the city council. The city council checks the park board, and there's a give and take there.